Alrighty, welcome back everyone to the Second Take Podcast. This is now episode 3. We want to point out it's National Podcast Day, so if there's ever been one to tune into, it's definitely today. And we're very excited to be back once again. We have some hot takes for the NFL, maybe some playoff predictions, and then we'll go into the MLB Wildcard, where we kind of see the rest of the matchups going, and as well as some predictions there. So to kick it off, would you like to start out with some NFL hot takes?
Yeah, so there's been, we were talking about this before the podcast, that week 4 is really where we could start to make patterns and, we could start to discern what is real and what isn't. So before the podcast, we both kind of created some hot takes that we not only want the audience to gauge, but we want to gauge with each other. So I'll start off with one of my hot takes, which is one that I've been harboring anger towards this player for many of the years that he's been in the NFL. I just am not a fan of the way he plays, and I'll explain a little bit of why. But my first take is George Pickens is not a top 35 receiver in the NFL. And before I kind of give some defense to my claim, I'd love to hear what your initial potential pushback to that statement would be.
Okay, so first of all, he's coming off a game of 8 catches for 134 and 2 touchdowns, and that's on 11 targets against a good Packers defense. I'm not so sold anymore after these past couple of weeks. I just can't get on board with that. Top 35. I don't think you can name 35 receivers better than George Pickens in the NFL right now. I mean, he has now had 3 games in a row with a touchdown, 4 touchdowns in the season. He's had 3 straight games of at least 68 yards, including his last one with 134. And I know it's fantasy. It's a little bit different. It doesn't apply as much to real life and not as much in a play style. But he's wide receiver 6. He's putting up a lot more production than guys that you would have ranked over him. And I know it's week 4, but you just talked about how we're starting to see some patterns. And George Pickens is showing that, he's, I think, better than what he showed in Pittsburgh. I think his ability to get up to that point that most receivers can't get up to as a deep ball threat, especially given how good he is in space, makes him so dangerous. And I have him top 25. That's me personally. Right. But I want to hear your argument. I want to hear what you have to say.
No, I totally get what you're saying, and I have to take the counter argument, into account. My original statement was George Pickens is not a top 40 receiver in the NFL.
I bumped up 5 spots.
I amended it a little bit. Give him some credit for a great performance last night. But it boils down to really 2 things for me with George Pickens. And number 1 is talent. What I see is a top 10 contested threat receiver in the NFL. Fact. The guy is unbelievable at the catch point, makes some incredible plays. And I'll bring up why I think his play style is so cancerous for discourse regarding his player, because I feel like you're not going to see George Pickens failing to run a basic route on your House of Highlights Instagram reels, but you'll see him making an insane one-handed catch. And then another thing with George Pickens is just like kind of what I brought up earlier. I don't think the guy has wide receiver 1 qualities. I don't think he's a leader from what I see off the field. You can watch 10-minute video of him getting in terrible situations, personal fouls. The guy is kind of immature. In terms of football, I don't think he is a great route runner. I don't think he's the kind of guy you throw him a screen and expect him to get you 10 yards. He's just not that fast. And to me, from what I see from offensive coordinators, is that they kind of they play into his laziness. They just let him run verticals and just let him go up for some insane catch. And that doesn't always work. I think this week against Green Bay, I think this is more of an outlier than an indication of what the rest of the season is going to look like. I think he'll get a lot of work, but I just don't think this is a guy you can rely on to shoulder your offense. And I think without CeeDee Lamb, I think this is an outlier. I think defenses will key on him if they try to use him in that CeeDee Lamb role, and I think that's really where he's going to get exposed.
Yeah, I can agree with that because he's a much different receiver than CeeDee Lamb. He's not as much of a route runner. I can agree with that. He doesn't always give 100%, which is not good, and I would probably get angry at him if he was on my team. However, as a Jets fan, we don't have someone who can go up and get those balls. I think that's his greatest strength. You don't have a lot of guys like that in the league who have that catch point ability that he does and that craftiness in terms of positioning himself to catch the ball. And he is not a wide receiver 1, but I think at this point, I don't think there are more than 12 wide receiver 1s in the league. Quentin Johnson, I'm looking at you. You're still not a wide receiver 1. I'm not sold. Drake London, I talked about you last week. You are the man. I love you. You're outstanding. And I get what you're saying about George Pickens, right? He has issues in terms of professionalism, I suppose, and that would anger me, but I think that doesn't take away from as a football player in terms of his wide receiver abilities. And I'm going to push back on what you said about him not being able to get you 10 yards. I think he can. I think he's shifty. He's not fast, but he's not slow. He's not slower than your average NFL wide receiver, and I think he's good in open space. I think he's good at, making people miss. I think he's good at, stretching himself further into the play, and he's tough to bring down. He always has been. He's always good at getting yards after the catch, breaking tackles, and I think that's something people often overlook with wide receivers. I mean, you look at someone like Justin Jefferson. People have so much praise to talk about him, and rightfully so.
Right.
One thing people never bring up is the fact that he's great at shaking off defenders, and I see a lot of that with George Pickens, and while I understand where you're coming from, I still think that those, things that don't really show up on the stat sheet are stuff or traits that, set him apart from other receivers in the league that allow him to enter that top 35 discussion.
No, I totally get that. And I don't think I can name 35 guys that are definitively better than George Pickens. I can name 35 guys I think I'd rather have over George Pickens. And I'll say, you're right. He's 24. There is so much time for him to grow into a much better player. It doesn't really feel like it feels like we've been talking about him forever.
21?
Yeah, this is his fourth season. He spent three with Pittsburgh. And I will say I love his situation as a 2 in Dallas. I think trying to use him as a 1 is pointless. Obviously, there's no choice now with CeeDee Lamb. But I'll say I think this is the best environment he's had with Dak. Now that he's Dak Prescott and he has a guy like CeeDee Lamb to draw away from him. I think I want this guy to succeed. But as of right now, I think we need to pump our brakes on one performance, and I'd love for him to prove me wrong.
Now, agree to disagree, but I have in fantasy, so I'm a little bit biased. Moving on, I'm going to throw out one of my hot takes, and this might be a little bit spicy. I'm sure a lot of people will disagree. I think the Colts are making the AFC Championship. Wow. I don't know about championship caliber play, because I think this is the first year in recent memory where I can say the NFC is actually better than the AFC. Mm-hmm. We haven't seen this in years since, this QB, not trifecta, what's the word for 4? Whatever it may be, Mahomes, Lamar, Josh Allen, and Joe Burrow. I think since those 4 have kind of, come into their own and established themselves as, that top 4 pod in the league, this is the first year we've seen the NFC come up like that. And I think, in a weaker AFC than in previous years, I think this could be the Colts year to make a run. And look, people are going to hate on Daniel Jones. I think the situation he was in with the Giants was just unbelievably bad, similar to what the Jets did to Sam Darnold, and you see what he's doing now. I think this is a resurgence that is here to stay. I think this is not Geno Smith when his first year with the Seahawks. I don't think this is, similar to that Saints start from last year where they came out and had, one of the best 2 games on offense in NFL history.
Right.
I think this Colts defense is very good, and I think that they proved themselves in a close loss to the Los Angeles Rams, who I personally think are a top 3 team in the NFC, if not top 2, behind the Eagles. I think that, Adonai Mitchell doesn't throw the ball out of the end zone before he gets in, and they don't get that, and the Rams don't get that 88-yard touchdown.
Right.
The Colts are improving to 4-0, beating a playoff contender. Yeah. And you can't say that a lot of teams in the AFC right now. I know the Chargers started out hot, they lost to the Giants. Right. I know they didn't have their top 2 tackles. You still can't lose to the Giants, Yeah. And you need guys to step up. And you look at the Chiefs. They looked great last week. They're still 2-2, and they had 2 very embarrassing losses, in my opinion. And, the Bills are the Bills. They're still the best team in the AFC, in my opinion. But the entire AFC North, I'm not sold on the Steelers. The Steelers are not good. Mm-hmm. The other 3 teams all have losing records, besides the Bengals, but they're a lost cause.
For now.
They are a lost cause. And I think this Colts defense has what it takes to hold up against those top AFC offenses. I could see them making a run, and I think that division is theirs to lose.
Yeah, I am all for the Colts love, right? I think this was a roster that we really should have expected to be better going into this year. I mean, we've known that what Shane Steichen can do, and I mean the results he was able to produce with Anthony Richardson, we should have expected even a slightly polished veteran signal caller like Daniel Jones is going to be a massive improvement. And this offense is loaded with talent. You've got Tyler Warren and Jonathan Taylor kind of heading the offense. On defense, you've got, I believe, Charvarius Ward has been great. Cam Bynum already back with the crazy celebrations. This team has a lot of energy, and you're right. I think this is past the point where we could kind of chalk this up to like a miracle Saints 2-game stretch where they just scored 90 points. Where I'm going to push back on this claim is the AFC Championship part. I do think the Colts run away with this division, and I think they can carry probably a 2 seed, potentially a 1 seed into the playoffs, but I think that's where things change. I I'm always very worried about playoff football. I think it's an entirely different game than regular season football. And kind of thinking about the comparison to Sam Darnold, right? It's a very similar situation. Bring a polished play caller into a very well refined system. You see amazing regular season success, but then in the playoffs, everyone plays differently. And that's where I think a guy like Daniel Jones, who has virtually no, as far as I'm concerned, playoff success in his career, I think that's where the Colts crumble. So I could see the Colts making it as far as the second round. Maybe they get a 1 or 2 seed and they beat up on, this year it's kind of, the disparity is kind of large. So I could see a 6th or 7th seed being pretty poor and the Colts advancing against them. But I think once they play one of Buffalo or Kansas City, crazy, we can't even say Baltimore anymore. Hypothetically, if they manage to turn their season around and reach that point, I think the Colts would collapse in a similar way that the Vikings did in the first round of the playoffs last year.
That's understandable. I do see where you're coming from in that sense. I honestly think that this Colts defense is better than people are giving them credit for, and I think Daniel Jones has shown he can win a playoff game. I mean, speaking of the Vikings, it was 2022 when Daniel Jones took a pretty weak Giants roster to the divisional round. I mean, I don't think that it's crazy to say that they're a first-round exit. It could happen. I could be completely wrong, but I'm riding the wave. I'm here for the ride, and I think that this is a complete Colts team that has what it takes to make it. I think they might need a little bit of luck in terms of matchups. If they get one of the Bills or the Chiefs in the divisional round, say they get out of the wild card, then you're looking at a whole different ball game. But I think that, if the stars align the right way and they make that AFC Championship run, they keep riding this high. I mean, coming up, they have the Raiders. I think that's a win. Cardinals, I think that's a win. Chargers, not so sure. It's in LA, but they don't really have fans.
Right.
Then they get Titans, Pittsburgh, Atlanta. It gets a little bit tougher at the end of the season. You have a lot of winning teams there. But I don't know. I think if they establish themselves, I could see them making a run. And
what a fun team, though.
It's a fun team, man. And I would also love to show some up to the Jaguars. You guys are doing great.
Yeah.
3-1 with wins over the Niners, wins over the Texans and Titans, but I'm not too moved by that. But
there's a whole lot of stuff with the Titans. We could do a whole episode about that disaster. But yeah. No, the Colts are a lot of fun. I really am hoping they continue just to bring some life to this kind of stale AFC like playoff history that we've had. It's the same 3 teams over and over again. There's nothing I would love more than to see a team like the Colts kind of disrupt that equilibrium they have going on there. That would be really great. Okay, so I'm gonna throw another hot take at you. And I think this is one that concerns one of your favorite players. And it's one that concerns a lot of my favorite players too. But I am of the belief that I think the Falcons are kind of fraudulent. And I would materialize that claim by saying I don't think the Falcons are going to make the playoffs this year.
Bad take. I want to hear your rationale for why you don't think the Falcons are going to make the playoffs.
Yeah, I know you can't really read too much into singular observations. Like if it's a 17-game NFL season, you can't look at one game. But I don't think there's any excuse for losing 30-0 from the Panthers and not just looking at the box score. Oh my God, you lost to the Panthers 30-0. If you look what happens in that game, it is a complete coaching masterclass by Canales. And what he did was he embarrassed Raheem Morris. And what it was just let Penix sit in the pocket, let him show his unorthodox motion, maybe not really being able to put the ball on the money. And it showed Penix was panicked. He was making terrible throws. He threw a pick 6 on a check down, which is a cardinal sin for a quarterback to throw, to not see a guy creep up on a check down. And usually that means you've stared at it too long. I'm such a fan of Penix. I love the arm talent. It feels like Tua going right. Not right as in the direction, but like going, like actually doing something. Just watching these guys with these rocket motions, just missile the ball. The guy is so talented, but I worry about this defense not as strong as, the secondary is supposed to be the strong point, and it hasn't really been that this year. They're just not a team that really excites me right now. And for all the talent they have on offense, this is nothing against Bijan or Drake London, who I think are outstanding players. But at the end of the day, I don't think Raheem Morris is going to be able to lead the Falcons to a winning record is possible, but this is a competitive league. I don't think the Falcons are going to make the play. I think they could. I wouldn't have much faith in them if they did. But as of right now, I don't have any confidence in them making the playoffs.
Okay. And I'm going to push back on that, saying Michael Penix has not even started 10 games in his career.
Right.
And, he's on the older side. But either way, you need time to settle in. You take a look at that Panthers game. They did lose 30-0. Week 1, the Lions got absolutely smoked by the Packers. And now I think the Lions are in a position better than the Packers to win their division. And yes, they're 2-2, but you take away a Baker Mayfield game-winning drive, they're potentially 3-1.
Mm-hmm.
They do have Buffalo and San Francisco coming up. Those are 2 pretty tough games. However, then they get Miami, New England, Indianapolis, Carolina, Saints, Jets. I mean,
Wow.
say they win, how many games is that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. They could theoretically win 6 of those games. They're looking at an 8-4 record, and I don't think the Buccaneers have really proven enough to separate themselves from the Falcons at this current point in time. They're 3-1, but the Buccaneers have always been in close games. They almost lost to the Jets. How do you almost lose to the Jets? We're an embarrassment this season. Either way, I think that offense can take them over the hump. And if you take a look at their defense, right, it's not the strongest unit they've ever had, but it's holding up. They have a fantastic secondary, and
Yeah.
it hasn't shown quite yet, but I think the talent that they have there with those veteran players is going to start to show coming up soon. And I think those guys have proven in the past that they can, be able to come up in those big moments. I don't know. I'm just sold on the offensive talent, right? I think Kyle Pitts is a better player than people give him credit for. And he catches a lot of
Love
heat,
Kyle Pitts.
but he's a good football player. He doesn't get the looks that he should. Bijan Robinson is the best running back in the NFL. I'm not really willing to hear otherwise on that.
Mm-hmm.
I think Drake London is top 10, and I think Penix will come into his own. I think he's just starting to click more and more with this offense, and I think the play calling's been great. I think they have an outstanding offensive coordinator. Playoffs is tough, It's going to be a competitive wildcard race this year. You got teams like the Seahawks who have looked good. Nah, probably not the Cardinals. Definitely not the Cardinals.
The most of that division is pretty competitive. Most of the South all of them are potential playoff contenders.
Yeah, but at least in terms of the wild card, I think they have a better bet winning the division. I'm not completely sold that the Buccaneers are a better unit than the Falcons, and I think that if they keep relying on their playmakers, they have the best running back tandem in the league.
Mm-hmm.
They can keep running that ball. If they stay healthy, I could see them maybe making a divisional round run.
Yeah, meant the NFC West, by the way. No, I agree. I can give this Falcons defense more credit. They're allowing the second most yards per game in the NFL right now through 4 games. They're allowing 244 yards per game, which is very solid. I worry about Penix's injury history. I worry about how this team, if you remove one piece from the puzzle, things can just crumble down. I think it'll take a lot of things to go right this season for the Falcons to see some real playoff success. And maybe I'd amend my statement too. I don't think the Falcons are going to win a playoff game this year. I think maybe that's a bit more of a fair statement to make given what we've seen from them so far. And you're right, through this, I think it'll be imperative to see on this easy stretch how the Falcons play, because they're competitive with the Buccaneers. They get completely wasted by the Panthers. So I think you're absolutely right. Bring up this stretch and just kind of think about, what kind of Falcons are we getting? And I think in maybe 4 weeks we'll have a better idea of what that team's going to be.
Yeah, and then for my second hot take, I know you're going to love this one. 3.3 yards per carry, 4 yards per carry, 2.6 yards per carry, 2.3 yards per carry, 14 catches on the entire season. Does that sound like top 5 running back material to you with one of the best offensive lines in the league? I'm looking at you, Saquon Barkley. You're washed. I've seen enough. You're not breaking any big plays like you used to last year. You have one game with over 60 rushing yards, and that game was on your 4 yards per carry game. That's not that impressive. That's barely above league average. I'm not seeing the same juice I've seen from Saquon in previous years. Mm-hmm. I'm fully ready to put him out of that top 5 conversation and consider him to be a true X factor on that offense. I'm not saying he isn't an X factor, but he's not in that upper echelon like he used to be.
Right. I will first acknowledge the argument that you've made because I think it makes sense, right? I would be worried about Saquon too right now. Just the production is obviously a big one. Last year, he was breaking off big plays left and right. I think he had maybe
2,000 yards.
2K yards. I think he had 8 of the NFL's 10 longest runs last year. Mm-hmm. It was an unbelievable season. I think most people, not just Eagles fans, but I think most fans expected he wouldn't be able to reproduce that going into this year. Now, that being said, I will also acknowledge that I understand that statistical production is a part of ranking players, right? And if Saquon doesn't even get close to replicating last season, I understand wanting to downgrade him from, at the end of last season, it was consensus best running back in the league. That being said, I would not even be remotely close to taking Saquon out of top 3 running back conversations, let alone top 5. I don't think you can deny the guy's talent. He's been doing it for years. It's just about the situation he's been put in. I mean, he spent all those years at MetLife running on the turf, constantly tearing every muscle in his body because his team required so much of him. So being a complete workhorse on a team that actually gives him space to operate, this year has been a disaster for offensive play calling. If you watch Eagles games, it's terrible play calling. They are giving him no opportunities to get open. And Saquon Barkley's production is directly in proportion to the passing game. If you can open up the passing game, they're not going to stack the box every play. And you'll see teams just stack the box every play against the Eagles until our offensive coordinator, Kevin Patullo, who's kind of trash, first-year coordinator. So you feel bad for him, but he's been thrust into a position that he cannot hold for much longer. So I understand the worries. I agree. Saquon Barkley is not the best running back in football in this exact moment, but I don't think there are 4 guys that you can name over Saquon Barkley that I would take over him. I think that's preposterous.
Christian McCaffrey, Jahmyr Gibbs, James Cook.
I was waiting for that one. I think James Cook over Saquon Barkley is a blasphemous take. If you want to say James Cook has been better than Saquon Barkley this season, have a ball game with it, right?
I will.
But if you want to say he's the better player, I think that's a preposterous statement.
I don't think it is either. I was watching highlights from throughout the week. James Cook is bouncing off tackles left and right. It's
been incredible.
Hitting every single gap. Saquon doesn't have that same burst he did last year. He's not breaking as many tackles. And yes, the offensive play calling has been bad. But, it's week 4, and trends are starting to show.
Right. I'm trying to I'll see if I can pull it up. I would bet lots of money that Saquon Barkley has one of the worst yards before contact rates in the NFL. They stack the box against him on practically every obvious pass, every obvious running down, which is first down for the Eagles. They do the same boring inside handoff. They're not giving him opportunities. He hasn't been making the most of his opportunities because he hasn't been getting any of them. And I feel like it's just terrible. It's really, they've put him in a terrible situation, and they're still trying to make him the focal point of this offense, but the Eagles offense has not clicked at all. So what I will say is I think this is the worst it gets all season. The Eagles know this cannot stay the same. They cannot keep winning games like this. Otherwise, the film will be out, and then just like 2023, the team will collapse and lose 8 straight games or something to end of the year. So I understand your concern. Shout out James Cook. You've been balling. You've been fantastic, and prove everybody wrong. But I wouldn't be prepared to say Saquon is anything worse than, I'll say, 4th at the worst. And I don't think there's a realistic argument for Jahmyr Gibbs being better than Saquon Barkley.
I think there absolutely is. But we're going to shift our attention to the MLB to close out the rest of the podcast. I have probably more. I'm going to talk about you next week, Saquon. So
we'll bring it up. We'll get the stats, and then we'll go back at it next week.
We'll circle back some of these next week, see how we're feeling. But looking towards the MLB playoffs, I know there's been a couple games today. Mm-hmm. You see the Tigers eke out a big win against the Guardians.
Yeah.
Serge Skubal was incredible. 14 Ks.
Right.
He is just a league above everyone else. Yeah. I worry about them the rest of the series.
Yeah, no,
you put your ace out there. The Guardians' bats have been scorching hot. I mean, they ended the season, I think, winning 17 of their last 19 or 20. Tigers blew one of the biggest division leads of all time.
Right.
I mean, it's one of the worst collapses we've ever seen. And yes, Skubal can come out there, give them some life in Cleveland. Big win. I still think the Guardians are going to come back and take the series.
Really?
I do.
I totally see where you're coming from, right? But I don't think we can underestimate how big of an advantage it is to have a guy like Skubal and kind of be able to scratch off the first game of the series. But you're right. This should have been a lot better for the Tigers. To win 2-1 with Skubal going, he went 7-2. Jeez. Gave up 3 hits, 1 run, 14 Ks. I mean, you have a guy pitch a game like that, and if you win by 1 run, especially when your relievers don't give up the extra run, like that offensive firepower, you're right. We should totally be worried about the Tigers not being able to seal this series away. And if they do, I think it'll just be by virtue of having this. Wait, they don't have the seeding advantage, right? No, you're totally right. I think the Tigers. Yeah, the Tigers could totally lose the series. It's kind of worrying. But I mean, it's not worrying if you're Tarek Skubal. You've done what you can.
Yeah.
And I don't think. I mean, I've been talking to some Tigers fans recently. I don't think there's a chance in the world they don't do everything in their power to bring him back. This guy is your franchise, and if the Tigers move on, I think they can rest easy knowing they'll have game one of any given series kind of tucked away.
Yeah, you have to assume. And especially with the Tigers, of course, they need to lock up Scooball, and they need to actually invest in some real, certified players who can hit the ball. I mean, look, they've had guys who've had good seasons. Riley Green's been incredible. Spencer Torkelson has looked good. Kerry Carpenter, Gleyber Torres has had a nice resurgence.
Right.
Those aren't guys that are going to move the needle to the World Series at the end of the day. And, this isn't the most riveting series, but I personally have the Guardians come back and taking this just because of momentum. However, I could be wrong. But looking towards a more exciting series between two teams I consider to be the second and third best in the National League, Cubs and Padres. Cubs take game 1 3-1.
Wow.
Back-to-back home runs in the first. I believe it was in the fifth. My apologies. I think that the Cubs have the momentum going forward, and they were at home.
Right.
I don't know. No. I like what I've seen from the Cubs all season. They've been a full unit. It hasn't been a couple guys carrying the load like you see with the Padres.
Right.
I think they've slept on rotation, and their pen looked great today. One thing I am worried about is using 4 relievers for a full inning today.
Yeah.
But on the Padres side, they also used 4. And Wandy Peralta only went 1 batter.
Right.
But,
Yeah.
I'm riding with the momentum of the Cubs right here.
I think the Cubs have an unbelievable batting lineup, right?
Yeah.
I mean, this is just hitter after hitter after hitter of guys who are going to make you pay. I mean, Kyle Tucker's fantastic. Even with PCA, this unbelievable second half of the season fall off that we've seen from him, they've moved him down the board. He's still going to make his, base. He's going to make himself felt once he gets on. I mean, he struck out swinging 3 times today. The guy needs to find his swing. I think if the Cubs are going to close out not only just this series but any subsequent series where it's going to start coming down to the little things. But I think you're right. I still would give the Padres the edge here. I do just you saw Mason Miller pitched 1 inning, 3 strikeouts. The Padres have the ability, they have the advantage, in the bullpen aspect to just put away any game with Mason Miller. And I still think you have guys that are, battle worn like Tatis, Manny Machado, guys that are just, you can rely on to go and get you a hit. But this is going to be a close series. I wish this was a longer series because what a matchup this is going to be.
Oh, so
I really
exciting.
couldn't tell you who's going to win this. I am going to lean towards the Padres, though.
Yeah, hey, fair enough. I'm going to route the Cubs. I think they have a nice route to the NL Championship Series. I don't think that's too crazy to say. Historically, the Brewers never win in the playoffs.
Yeah.
I don't think they will this year. They had a great regular season record, but I'm not moved. I think whoever wins this series is going to go on and beat them. Right. And once again, looking to a more exciting series, Yankees-Red Sox.
Yeah. And
that's just got so much history, so exciting.
Yeah.
I hate the Yankees. I think they win. They've been outstanding over that last month of baseball, and it pains me to say that, but the lineup looks good. The rotation looks good.
Right.
I think it's the best they've looked all season.
Yeah.
I think they're going to handily deal with the Red Sox and move on in 2 games.
Yeah, I mean, and as this podcast is being recorded right now, it's at the top of the 4th. The Yankees are up 1 on the Red Sox.
Oh, look at that.
And I think you kind of hit it right on the head. I mean, the Yankees lineup is just so talented. No matter how, I think once the Yankees get into more difficult series with much more established teams, I think we'll have more conversations about the Yankees struggles, kind of with that Yankees-Dodgers, scouting report saying just put the ball in play, these guys can't field. But playoff baseball is a different kind of game. Inexperienced hitters get picked on, and veterans that are big hitters, guys like Aaron Judge and Giancarlo Stanton, who are battle tested, just like I said with the Padres. These are the guys that are gonna, when their name is called on, they're gonna deliver. And at the end of the day, I think that's just the Yankees have this boom bust home run heavy lineup, and unfortunately, that's how you win a lot of baseball games. And when you play against a team like the Red Sox that we, at a certain point in the season, we didn't think they were going to make the playoffs, especially after that Devers trade. I would also give the edge to the Yankees here. I think they're just way too talented to lose to the Red Sox. But I will say, I don't know the exact record, but I know the Red Sox have been extremely positive against the Yankees this year.
They have. Playoff baseball is completely different. Yeah, I think Aaron Judge is eventually due to actually perform in a postseason for once, and I think he's reaching that age where, I don't think those yips are going to settle in as much, but it's definitely going to be an exciting series, especially with the Blue Jays looming for whoever comes out of this. And the last series we have is Reds-Dodgers. I think the Dodgers are going to kill them.
Yeah.
Dodgers have too much talent on that team to not beat a team like the Reds, and I hope I'm wrong. I don't like the Dodgers. Reds are a fun team, but I just don't see much there.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I very, very heavily favor the Dodgers here. Like we just said, it's postseason baseball is a different beast. They're so talented. They just went to the World Series. They have guys that know how to perform in this moment. You have Shohei Ohtani on your team. Odds are you will never be betted against in your entire career. And I guess it'll be kind of interesting to see how Ellie does in the postseason.
Yeah.
I mean, we'd love to see this guy kind of break out even on a bigger scale and be like, oh wow, this guy really went off against the Dodgers. But yeah, I don't think there's really a chance that the Reds. I mean, they have the momentum coming into the series, being that 6th seed. Just I think it can sometimes be a boon to come right into the playoff series, especially if you're playing hot and the mental fortitude that you're granted by slipping at the last second. I'm very sorry. Condolences about the Mets. But I think regardless of who the Dodgers would be facing here, I think they'll move on kind of scot-free. They're just too talented.
I agree as well. And pains me to go back on my Padres take from last week. I know I said I had them going to the World Series. This is one of those series against a great team like the Cubs where if you're not taking game one, it's going to be a little hard to claw your way back, totally. Especially in such a short series. I just wish there was more baseball to be played there.
Yeah.
It's such a shame because that's just, it's outstanding. It's outstanding TV. Yeah. And, I hope they can force game 3. Right. I think they will, but I'm going to ride with the momentum there.
Yeah.
And for the wild card, that's about all we got. I know the Mariners are going to be waiting for the winner of Guardians and Tigers, and I think they'll take care of whichever team comes out of there. And I do think the same for the Blue Jays taking care of either the Yankees or the Red Sox.
Right.
Dodgers, Phillies, I think it's going to happen. That will be outstanding baseball.
That'll be a great series.
Brewers get swept by whoever.
You think so?
They'll take one.
Yeah.
But Brewers don't move.
That's kind of boring, right?
I think it's going to be exciting October baseball that we got coming up here, Alex. I'm very excited for what's in store.
Yeah, I'm just so happy that there doesn't really feel like there's a runaway favorite
right?
in either like division. Like I mean, we're talking about the 1 seed Brewers, like there's some like bum wild card team. That's just the state of baseball that we're in, that anybody could really win it. Yeah, I read an article on ESPN talking about winners. I think people are a little high on the Phillies right now. I'm not quite there yet. Like, I would not value the Phillies over the Dodgers right now. Or I'm curious to see how the Dodgers will play against the Reds, because that should be like an aggressive series. They should go out there and destroy them. Yeah. Because if you're getting rattled by smaller teams, like even for the Tigers, like even if they take the first game over the Guardians, that's not that's not the result you want to have. I mean, playoff baseball, you win how you win. But if you have Scooball go out there and you sneak a win, you get one more run, you had one more hit. I think that's incredibly, incredibly worrying. And it's all about the little things in playoff baseball. And you're right. I just cannot wait to see what happens. There's
excited.
Nothing guaranteed right now, and I'm just excited to get started with the next series. As of right now, has your potential World Series, just to kind of close off here, has your potential World Series prediction in both who makes it and who wins it, has that changed at all?
So I'm going to have to remove the Padres because I think it's going to be tough for them to come out of this Cubs series. My gut wants me to, replace the Padres with the Cubs in that spot.
Right.
It's one of those things where, yes, like, the stars could align and they have the talent. Mm-hmm. In my head, I can't see it.
Yeah.
It's the same thing. This is off topic, of course, but it's the same thing I told my friends who were Jets fans from back home when they were so pumped up by Justin Fields. I said, close your eyes right now. Imagine Justin Fields hoisting up the Lombardi Trophy. Can you do it? And everyone said no. That's kind of how I'm feeling right now with the Cubs winning the pennant. I close my eyes. It's just not something I see happening, and I could be wrong. I've been wrong about this stuff in the past, but I'm going to trust my intuition. I think if I have to shift, I'm going to stick with the Blue Jays from the AL, but I think from the NL, I'm looking at the winner of that Dodgers-Phillies series, which pains me to say because I hate both those teams, but, they're just, kind of a step above everyone else in terms of talent, and I'm a little nervous. Well, not nervous because I don't like the Phillies, but I'm curious to see how their playoff rotation holds up without Zach Wheeler. But either way, it's going to be a good October, and I'm excited to see what's coming up.
Right, yeah. I'm right there with you on Phillies-Dodgers. I think winner takes whoever of Brewers, whoever advances between those two. Hopefully it won't be the Brewers because Phillies struggle against them this year. I'm hoping it's the Phillies. For now, I'm going to say the Dodgers, just taking postseason pedigree and eliminating the Phillies. Zach Wheeler wasn't the best starter for the Phillies this year, but come playoff time, that's the guy you're going to rely on. That's your guy with the most experience. So I am going to lean Dodgers to come out NL side, and for AL side, I think I'm going to stick with the Mariners.
I like that.
I love the lineup. I love the pitching. I think they're just riding on an incredible high, and the fans are going to be there. That's a really underrated aspect of MLB baseball, with how many games you play in each stadium.
They have playoff god Randy Rosarena, who's
Yeah.
been mashing this year.
I hope he steals home at some point during this
Man,
October. That would be electric. And as of right now, I think I'm gonna keep my pick. I think I'm gonna say the Mariners win it all.
Okay.
2 electric bats. I think they'll ride it through. Cal Raleighy's just gonna keep hitting dingers, and I'm so excited to see how this kind of unfolds. But yeah, that's kind of all we have for baseball as of right now.
And no fan base deserves it more than those Mariners fan, man.
Yeah.
They need it bad. But that will wrap us up for today's episode of the Second Take Podcast. Thank you very much to everyone who joined in. Once again, happy National Podcast Day. Hope you guys spread it to some friends, share the love, enjoy the holiday. Everyone enjoy your week, your weekend, and we'll see you next week.
Thank you, everybody.